Hello and welcome to the video about email verification. In this video we are going to cover all the necessary steps we need to take in order to create a email verification part as a process of user registration. So what we need to do actually is when a new user signs up, we want to create a secret token, and then we want to associate that secret token with his account on our database, as well as also flag his account as currently being inactive. After that is done, what we need to do is to then send an email containing that secret token, and we'll also have a page where the user can then copy and paste that secret token from that email to that page, and that page will then verify his account and he will be able to log in successfully. So it's an interesting thing. It's not really that hard. It's just we need to address pretty much two problems. One problem is the creation of this secret token and handling that aspect of the story, and the other problem is sending an actual email using the node.js. Now, when it comes to the sending actual emails from within the node, there are many options to choose from. In this example, we are going to use a module called Node Mailer. And how Node Mailer works is you need to build a transport object, and you build transport object by describing either the service, or you can use SMTP yourself. However, I don't suggest that, because not only you have to maintain the SMTP yourself, but because you don't have authority, many email clients like Gmail could mistakenly flag your email as a spam. So I suggest you use services that are already provided out there for you, and there are many to choose from. There is Mailgun, and there is also SendGrid for an example, but there are many more. In this example we are going to use a Mailgun. Now they allow you to send, I believe, up to 10,000 emails per month for free, and next you also need to provide the credentials for said service to that transport object. Now when you have this transport object built and can use it, you can call this function called sendMail, which you need to feed the following data, pretty much describe the email. So we have from field, to field, subject field, as well as the email content. And this is how easy it is to actually send emails from within the node. So now that this intro is done, let's actually get started on coding this thing. Okay, so let's get started with this. So what I have opened here is the end of the part 6. I will also include this source code in this state in the description, so you can follow me along if you're just curious about the email verification part. But if you've been through the entire series, then this is the code that you should have right now. So how are we going to do this is we'll actually first of all make sure that we can handle the email verification without the emails. Now that may sound silly, but we are just going to output that secret token to our console, and then we'll test that page that we will be building to see if it actually verifies us. And after we are sure that that all works, we'll simply go on and create that email module and simply just like send that secret token over there. So from like testing standpoint of view, this will be much faster, like to test and to get to the working state before we put actual emails into play. So what we want to do is we want to actually go to the routes file, and let me just fold all of these that we're not interested in. So we are interested in this /register post function over here. So what needs to happen here is after we hash the password, we want to generate a secret token somewhere about here, for example. So let me say over here generate secret token. And how are we going to do that? Well, we are going to use a npm package called random string. So what we need to do is actually go in our terminal, and actually I'm going to go yarn add random string. You can also use npm install random string. Okay, and now that we have it installed, we can just get a handle on that. So random string equals require random string like this. And what this gives us is we have a function on this object that is called generate, and this will in fact produce a random string for us. Now let me show you the GitHub page of this package so you can see a bit more about it. Okay, so this is the GitHub page. And if you take a look over here in the usage section, you can see that we can simply just require it, and if we don't pass any properties and we just call generate with empty arguments list, you see that we get this by default, something like this. So this is 32 characters long randomly generated string. Now you can also specify the length using this argument over here, or you can also specify a multitude of options, as you can see here. But for this, I mean, there is really no it's up to you. I mean, you can include numbers, you don't have to. You can include lowercase, you don't have to. It's really up to you, but it's just good to know that you have plenty of options over here if you so choose to do. So now let's simply use it. So as I've said, this will simply give us a 32 long randomly generated string, and now we need to save it somewhere. So let's create a new constant. Let's call it secret token, and let's assign it to this. Now what we want to do is to also save this secret token in our database and associate it with this current user that is trying to register right now. So I'm going to write something like result.value, and then let's call it secret token and simply assign it to this. Okay, so now it should be good. However, if you remember, our model so far doesn't expect this field at all. So let's quickly jump into these models, user model over here, and simply add that field. So we're going to say secret token, and we're going to assign a string type to it, like this. Okay, so now what we also need to do is not only do we need to generate and assign secret token, but if you remember from the slides back minutes ago, we also need to flag this current account as inactive because the email verification still hasn't been done. So let's say something like flag the account as inactive, and we're going to do that in a similar manner. So on the result.value, let's have a field called active, and we'll simply set it to be false by default. So remember, whatever we append to this result.value, like this, like this, like this, is what will eventually go on into the creation of new user over here. But we also need to create field for this active property inside of our model, so let's do that. So active, and it is going to be type boolean, like this. Okay, now this looks okay, and what we can actually do is simply test this. So I'm going to be using RoboMongo. Right now I have zero data, zero documents, so I'm actually going to try this, create a new account, and let's see if we get these two values to pop up and whether they are of the values that we're expecting them to be. So secret token and false. So first of all, I need to actually start this server because I haven't. So node.js. Let's see if everything is good. Seems that way. Okay, so I now navigated to the site. Let's go sign up. Let me write codeworker@gmail.com, username codeworker, password test123, test123, and let's see what happens. Okay, it says now you may log in. we can actually get a glimpse over here of what this user actually is. So it both contains a secret token and the active property. But we can also go to RoboMongo and check that for ourselves. So we have this document, and yes, exactly those two things over here. Okay, so great. So this is kind of the first step. Now what we want to do is we want to disable login for particular users whose active property is false. Okay, because they didn't verify their emails and we don't want them to be able to log in. You can handle this in numerous different ways. You could just like limit the functionality of your site, or maybe you could disable some features for them until they do the verification. But for now, just to be a bit simpler, I'm going to totally disallow login of such users. So to do that, we are interested in this login, but all of this is handled pretty much by passport.js. So we need to navigate to this passport.js file over here, and we have this local strategy over here. So what we want to do is we want to check if the email already exists. Okay, we want to check whether the password is correct, but we also want to check whether the user has already verified his or her account. So I'm going to do it like this. Over here I'm going to handle the case if it is not valid. So if not valid, let us do this. Okay, and then we're going to check if the account has been verified. And how can we do that? Well, quite simply, we have user object over here. We just want to check whether the user.active is actually true or not. So I'm going to write if user.active isn't the case, so if it isn't active, then I also want to simply do something like this, but maybe the message could say you need to verify email first. Yeah, something like that. And in any other case, we know that everything is good since we passed these three blocks. So now we can simply do this like that. Okay, so now what should happen is if I restart the server and I try to log in with this account, I shouldn't be able to because of this active property being set to false. So let's see that. I'm going to restart the server. Okay, I'm going to open this site once again, and now I want to actually write code worker, and it was test 123, and it says you need to verify email first. Lovely. So right now this is going the way we want it to go. So what we also need to do is we need to create some sort of a page, let's say /user/verify, for example, which will have similar to this actually, just a field where user can enter his secret token and he can then verify that. Okay, so for that, let us go into the views folder. Let us create a new file. Let's call it verify.handlebars, like this. Now I could basically borrow a lot of code, for example, let's say from the login, because it is pretty much the way I want it to be anyway. So instead of please sign in, we could say verify your email. Maybe we're only going to have one field, and that should be called secret token. Name and ID is going to be secret token. So secret token, secret token, secret token, type text, placeholder secret token, and this button over here, verify, something like this. Next, the action is going to be over the /user/verify, which we'll need to write ourselves. Okay, so this looks good. So let's come to this user's route and let's create a new block of this kind where we handle that piece. So what we need to do is, maybe we can go over here and let's say router.route slash verify. We're going to have two functions. One is going to be the get and the other one is going to be the post. So the get one, we only want to show or to allow seeing the page, the verify page, if the user isn't authenticated. Otherwise, we know since he's been able to authenticate it, he's already verified. So no need to be able to display that page. So request response. Okay. And on the post we want to, yeah, it's going to be a function from scratch, so request response next, like this. Okay, over here we can do similar what we done over here, so we just want to respond back with a template called verify. And on the post, well, let's handle post in a second. Let's just make sure this works. So I'm going to restart this and let's see if this URL actually works. Okay, lovely, so it works. Okay, great. Okay, so inside of this post over here we want to do a couple of things. First of all, we want to actually receive this the secret token that we paste over here. So let's get a handle on that. So it is in the request.body, so I'm going to use this way to access it, like this. But of course you can always go const secret token equals request.body.secret token. It's up to you. Okay, next we want to actually find the account that matches the secret token. Idea being, if both, let's say, you and I register on this side and both you and I need to verify our emails, when I paste my secret token, I just want that secret token to reflect changes on my account. So this function over here is going to find among all the users, it is going to find the user whose secret token is exactly the one that the user just pasted and sent on that page, meaning that this user over here, since he knows his secret token, he obviously got it from the email. So then that's the email verification in a nutshell, pretty much. So let's find the user that matches the secret token. So we can simply go await user find one, and then if you remember, like, that secret token property is like on the top level, so we can simply just write here secret token, and then we want to match that with this secret token over here, like this. And this is pretty much done. So now I can const user equals like this. Now let's say that someone goes to that page and maybe puts some rubbish in there and clicks enter. In case that this user doesn't exist, let's handle that case also. So if this user doesn't exist, then we pretty much want to simply flash a message saying it's error, and let's say no user found, and maybe we want to redirect to again try to verify email. So let's say /user/verify, like this, and simply let's return, so we don't continue executing code over here. Now if that's not the case, meaning we actually found the account that has that secret token, what we need to do is pretty much modify this user. So first of all, we want to say active to true, so we just granted access to it, and we also want to say user.secret token. Let's simply override the secret token with nothing, so it's not confusing. So we know whenever we see this pair true and nothing for secret token, we know that that user has been validated. Next, let's simply save that user like this, and let's simply maybe send a flash message saying maybe like, thank you, now you may log in, something like that. Now let's also redirect back to the login, since now the user can log in fact. Okay, great. And because this is async function, let's wrap all of this inside of a try catch before I forget that. Okay, catch error. Okay, like this. Now, just to recap what we've done, we pretty much handled the scenario in which user actually wants to use that secret token to actually verify that he had access to the email account, which it will come into play in just a few minutes. So let's actually now give it a test run by doing all of the thing that we just wrote. So we currently have this user over here who is not validated, so active is false and it is expecting this secret token. Okay, now if you remember, if I try to sign in, it wouldn't let me. Okay, I need to verify email first, but if I come to the /verify over here, and let's simply copy this token, because this token is what will eventually be sent to the user's email. So edit, and I'm going to copy this. But before I do that, let me actually first put some rubbish in here, and let's see what happens. Okay, awesome. So no user found, everything was handled correctly. But if I pasted the secret token that is actually assigned with my account and I click verify, thank you, now you may log in, and if I check this RoboMonk over here, we can see that active is true and secret token is not there anymore. So now if I try to log in with this account, yeah, it seems to work. Okay, so this is like pretty big chunk done. Now what's left for us to do is to simply send that secret token to the email and have maybe something like this URL in that email, so user can click on that URL and simply paste a secret token. So now let's talk about that bit over there. So first of all, let me actually close all of this. So what we need to do is, let's first of all create a folder called, let's say, misc, but it needs to be top level. And inside of this misc folder, I'm going to create a new file called mailer, like this. And now we need to make use of that node mailer package. So we need to install it. So let me quit this server, and I'm going to type yarn add node mailer. You can also use npm install. Okay, and now let's actually use it. So I'm going to get a handle on that node mailer over here. Okay, and we also need a configuration for this node mailer, and we could put it over here, but let's stay consistent with this folder over here. So in fact, let's create a new file over here called mailer as well, and let's simply get access to that file from here. Okay, so this config file is going to be a really simple one. So what we want to have here is simply we want to export the following objects. We want to export, we're going to use mailgun, so let's call it mailgun user, and then we'll have some string, and mailgun password, and we'll have some string here as well. Okay, now back in this mailer file over here. So if you remember the slides, we want to build that transport object first of all. So let's write const transport equals a node mailer dot create transport, and then we need to pass in an object, and this object will contain three properties. First property is going to be service name, so it's going to be called mailgun. If you were using some other service, you would put it here differently. Next, we want to have our authorization fields over here, so it is actually a sub-object. And thirdly, we want to have TLC for security, and we want to have their object as well. So these authorization objects are going to pretty much just refer back to the user and password over here. So we will write something like user is equal to config.mailgun user, and likewise for the password, so config.mailgun password, like this. And over here we want just to put reject unauthorized to be equal to false, like this. Yes, okay. Now that we have built this transport object, we actually want to call the sendMail function on it to actually send emails when we want. However, let's simply write ourselves a little wrapper for that, so that we could use it in async functions, async await manner. So I'm going to actually go here and go module.exports, and we want to export a single function. Let's call it send mail, for example, or send email, and this function will have the following arguments. So we will have from, to, subject, and HTML. So this is pretty much like copy paste from the slides. I only called HTML content back in the slides. And we want to turn this function into a promise, so we are going to return a new promise, and we're going to have resolve and reject, and this is going to be a fat arrow function. So what we want to do here is use this transport object and call send mail, and we simply want to pass in the arguments that we provided over here. So from, to, subject, actually sorry, this is the way, so from, subject, to, and then HTML, and then we will have a fat arrow callback, so there could be errors, or it could all be good and we just receive back the info. So we simply want to check whether there were any errors, and in that case we want to reject with such errors. Otherwise we simply want to resolve with that info, like this. Now we need to get a hold on these two things over here. So we need to go to the so now we need to go to that mailgun. I am already logged in. You should just create an account and log in yourself, and then you can go to the domains, and you will have this Sandbox domain. I honestly can't remember whether I needed to create this or this was actually created for me. I think it was the latter, but in any case it should be really easy. You just probably click create new, and you end up with this Sandbox domain name over here. Now what you want to do is you want to click on this, and over here you have a couple of informations. You are interested in the default SMTP login, so this is going to be our user, and default password is going to be our password. So you need to copy both of these values. So first the login over here, and then the password over here. and now you're pretty much done with this file, and you don't need to take a look at it again. So let's save that. And now what we also need to do before we move forward is you actually need to authorize a recipient, because in case you didn't like put your payment details just yet, they ask you for this. In case you did put payment details, then you don't need to do this step at all, but because I didn't, we need to do it. So what you're going to do is you pretty much want to list who can receive your emails. So I'm just going to add myself in. So I'm going to say codeworker@gmail.com, and I'm going to say invite. Okay, and now I need to actually open my email and click on the link provided so that I'm actually verified. Okay, so in this account of mine, I just received an email from the mailgun. Would you like to receive emails from my account name? And if I click this, I'm going to click on this I agree, and then yes. Okay, and now I can close that, and if I come here and I refresh this page, we can see that I am in fact verified right now, as of now. So great. So let's go back to our routes folder and then the users file, and we want to send emails during the registration, or in better words, after the registration is done. So let's navigate back here, and after we save this new user to our database, we actually want to compose an email. So now if you want, you could create a separate file for each email, which could be a good idea actually, so you don't clutter this controller over here. But because this is like project for learning sakes, we don't have to. So I'm going to create a new variable called HTML, and let's use the new ES6 string literal. It will come in handy over here. So you just put these two symbols, and next maybe we want to write something like hi there, and maybe then a space. Then we can write thank you for registering, and then maybe a couple more spaces, and then we can say please verify your email by typing the following token, and then another space. Just visualize this is like the HTML of the email, and then we want to simply provide token over here. So now using that string literal in ES6, we can use this way to refer to some variables, and we have this secret token, so we can use it like this. And maybe we would want to make it bold, something like this, and then maybe another space, and then we could say on the following page. And then what we can do is we actually could put the URL to that verify page over here. So let's say that's a tag, href is http/localhost. Of course, if you went in production and you had the domain, you would need to change it here as well. /user/verify, and then I'm actually going to copy and paste this like this. And then what we can do is make a couple more spaces, and then say have a pleasant day, maybe like that. Okay, so now before we actually inform the user about success case, we want to actually send an email, or actually send the email. So we are going to use the wait because it is a promise based function that we just wrote in that other file. So we're going to say, oh yeah, so we need to include it over here. So let's come up above and let's say const mailer equals require, and then we need to navigate up one directory. There is a misc folder and then mailer file. So now we can use this. So we are going to say await mailer dot send email, and then we need to put from. So when you receive an email, what should it say that that email is from who? So we can say something like maybe admin at codeworker authentication, or maybe even codeworkersite.com simply. Now, to whom are we sending this? Well, we have this email over here when the user made an account, so we can refer that like that. And then the subject line is next. So subject line could say something like, please verify your email, and then we need to include the actual email contents, so like this. And that's pretty much it. So now what we want to do is maybe change this to now you may log in to something like please check your email. And yes, okay, so this looks good. So now let's actually test that. So I'm going to remove myself from this users collection, and I'm going to open the site again. I'm going to first of all I need to start a server, not this, but start a server. And then I don't care about this anymore. Then I can go to home. Okay, so everything is good. So let's start from scratch. So sign up. I'm going to write codeworker at gmail.com. Codeworker, if I can type. Password, let's say test123, test123, sign up. Okay, now we wait a bit for that all to happen. It says please check your mail. Let's check console for if anything went wrong, but it didn't. So now we should be waiting for an email, and here it is. It says from admin, please verify your email. If I come here, we can see the following content that we just made on that route on the registration post function. And if I copy this, but before I do that, let's actually try to sign in before doing that. Test123, and we can't do that, but let me copy this secret token and open this page, and I paste this secret token and I click verify. No user found. And why was that? Well, simply because I had this space over here, as you can see. But if I get rid of this space over here and I click verify, now I can. So I'm going to go codeworker test123, sign in, and now it works. So maybe one improvement that we can do purely based on me seeing that just now is, once we actually get this secret token, maybe you would want to trim the spaces, and that way you won't run into the same problems again. So let's see if that will help with that. And I'm going to come here again, refresh, sign up, codeworker test123, test123, sign up. Now we wait. Okay, great. Let us check this. So active false, secret token over there. Okay, I received a new email. So let me copy now this, but let me also try to copy the space as well. So space like this, and I click verify, and now it worked. So I can try it again, and it works. So guys, there you have it. This is how easy it is to actually do the email verifications. And with all of this code in here, it would be really easy now for us to tackle the case where the user has forgotten their password and they click on the page and they get mailed back a new password. So if you want, you could try that. You could try to do it yourself as a challenge. but anyhow I'm going to also create a video on that as well. So yes, that's that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in some of my other videos.